We've heard of the big sinkholes in Florida and other places that swallow whole houses.
The valley doesn't have many sinkholes, but the ground in some parts of the valley is dropping several feet in some areas. It's an ongoing problem with new costs for everyone living here. As the ground drops, so do bridges, aqueducts, and other structures. And it's starting to mean millions of dollars worth of taxpayer-paid repairs. KMPH News anchor Rich Rodriguez has been investigating what's called subsidence, and he uncovers why farmers and the government are getting extremely worried over what's happening.
Farms need water, and in some parts of the valley, that water is deep underground. Subsidence occurs when deep well pumps take out too much of that water, and then the clay soil crumbles. The problem had been held in check for decades. But now that growers are pumping water from hundreds of feet below the surface to keep their crops wet, some areas are sinking by as much as a foot a year. One of the newest areas of subsidence is called Red Top. It gets the name from the restaurant a couple miles away on Highway 152 in Merced County. The area is about 20 miles east of Los Banos. In the past 5 years, deep well pumping has caused the ground to sink as much as 5 feet. That's a foot a year. I'm told back in 2009, this ground over here used to be the same height as where I'm standing. So how did this land turn into a bowl in just a few short years? It's a combination of deep well pumps in the area pulling water up from beneath the Corcoran clay.
Corcoran clay is a major confining layer within this area. Confining in that the water underneath the Corcoran clay is under pressure. The water above the Corcoran clay is not. And if they overpump it, it reduces the pressure from beneath the clay. As that pressure reduces, the clays are allowed to squeeze their water out and they compress.
Subsidence isn't just confined to the west side of the valley. NASA has been watching it by satellite for 4 years. The graph shows areas around Visalia dropped more than 2 feet in that time. One of the more visual areas of subsidence is just south of the west side community of Dos Palos, also in Merced County. A few years ago, a small boat could go under the bridge. Now a small piece of wood can't make it from one side to the other.
Where we're standing since 1926 has subsided about 10 to 12 feet.
Chris White has major concerns about the bridge and how it's impacting this canal. It moves water roughly 65 miles to several hundred landowners.
It's not sinking uniformly. It's the middle of a 65-mile canal that's sinking. So we're creating a hole here that water can flow into the hole, but it has a difficult time flowing out of it.
More than $4 million has been spent to raise the canal banks. Subsidence began to resurface near the end of the first drought of the 21st century, around 5 years ago. For years, farmers relied on Northern California water for irrigation. It winds through the Sacramento-San Joaquin Delta. Near Tracy, it must be pumped to begin heading south toward the valley, the breadbasket of the world. But this year, the preliminary water forecast is zero. Westside farmer Sean Coburn recently drilled a new 1,200-foot well to keep his almonds and wine grapes alive. But he says it's only a temporary Band-Aid.
We can't rely on groundwater. The projects were built to provide surface water for the irrigated lands to stop the overdraft of groundwater that was occurring back in the 40s and 50s. That's what the projects were built for. And now the projects are basically idled due to the pumping restrictions.
Coburn farms on the west side near Interstate 5, and he says there are no signs of subsidence. The U.S. Geological Survey is concerned about the ground sinking. In its report from last November, it warned that large-scale subsidence has the potential to cause serious damage to water delivery canals. Those canals bring water more than 100 miles to the valley where it feeds thirsty crops and cities. USGS says subsidence may cause big problems that need to be overcome to ensure reliable water delivery. Back at Red Top, steps are being taken to halt the ground from turning the area into a big crater. The Central California Irrigation District is helping, even though it serves growers miles and miles away.
The resources that are in this area, the landowner base that is very motivated to get something done, that we can put together a solution to subsidence in this specific area.
White says the solution is to recharge the shallow water table by flooding the area when it rains. Growers will then re-drill their wells to tap the shallow aquifer. Despite non-stop well drilling across the valley, farmer Sean Coburn doesn't believe the state will create new regulations.
I think you have to manage groundwater basin by basin. It's not a state-wide issue that one law fits all, because different water basins, have different characteristics. And I think you're going to run into a pretty big fight as far as trying to manage groundwater on people's personal property.
It's going to take more than $2 million to raise the bridge south of Dos Palos, and that could be just a drop in the bucket when it comes to future problems. The U.S. Geological Survey study discovered that subsidence is reducing the capacity of the California aqueduct. It stretches for more than 700 miles. It also warns that with the uncertainty of surface water, the potential for future subsidence remains high. Rich Rodriguez, KMPH, Fox 26 News.
And there have been state and federal water projects that were supposed to stop subsidence, but farmers say they haven't been managed well, so they are not working. In case you think a dropping water table and less water coming down the canals doesn't affect you, experts say look for 20,000 lost jobs this year, a $7.5 billion hit to the ag economy in California, and because of that, you'll pay much higher prices for your groceries. Definitely hits home.
That is such a fearsome picture to think about. Yeah. And we all remember what it looked like not that long ago, 2009 or so.
It's a reality.